The plot begins with a flashback to the first film, with Gandalf confronting the Balrog on the bridge of Khazad-dûm, but this time the sequence continues to follow both as they hurtle into the abyss below, fighting while in freefall. Frodo awakens from his dream as they reach the water of an underground lake and continues his trip with his trusty and devoted companion, Sam, across the rocky country of Emyn Muil, where they become lost. Soon after, they are ambushed by the ring-possessed Gollum, who wishes to reclaim his precious from those he believes stole it from him. Sam's elven rope, given to him by the elven elder Galadriel and Lorien, is used to subdue and bind him. Gollum howls and groans that the rope is burning his skin, prompting Sam to complain that Gollum's crying may attract orcs or others' notice. Sam distrusts Gollum and intends to forsake him, but Frodo recognizes the creature's burden and sympathizes with him. Frodo pulls the rope off Gollum's neck and convinces him to lead them to the Black Gate of Mordor. The Uruk-hai, along with their hostages Merry and Pippin, run through the grassy countryside of Rohan. Following 3 days of running, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli believe the hobbits are being carried to Isengard, where Saruman is marshalling his Uruk-hai armies to execute Sauron's bidding. King Theoden of Rohan, home of the Horse Lords, is mentally and physically weakened by the enchantments of his steward, Grima Wormtongue, who is covertly working for Saruman. Saruman's orcs and wild men of Dunland freely wander the land, raiding and slaughtering, including the king's only son Theodred. Theoden's nephew Eomer confronts Grima, furious because he has lustful eyes for Eomer's sister Eowyn and is now an agent of Saruman. Grima exiles Eomer for subverting his power, and Eomer sets out to gather the remaining faithful Rohirrim cavalrymen from across the kingdom. At nightfall, Eomer and his Rohirrim ambush and murder all of the orcs and Uruk-hai who are holding the 2 hobbits captive. Merry and Pippin almost escape their captors during the battle by running into the adjacent Fangorn woodland. Eomer subsequently sees Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli, and informs Aragorn that no survivors of the Orc/Uruk-hai murder survived. Aragorn uses his tracking skills to uncover hobbit tracks that lead into Fangorn as he arrives at the battle site. In a flashback, Merry and Pippin are being kept captive while the Uruk-hai argue with a party of Moria orcs who have joined them. Despite the Uruk-hai leader's concerns, the Moria orcs seek to slay and eat the hobbits. Following a disagreement, the Uruk-hai slay one of the orcs for food. Merry and Pippin retreat into the forest, pursued by the orc who attacked them earlier. They are helped by Treebeard, the oldest of the tree-like Ents, who leads them to the White Wizard, whom Merry and Pippin mistake for Saruman. We leave them looking up at him. Frodo and Sam travel across the dead marshes, passing undead fallen Second Age warriors that haunt the marshes. Frodo is charmed by the spirits who live in the swamp and falls in. Gollum rescues him before he drowns. A newly seated ringwraith atop his flying fell beast, a massive black dragon, also pursues the 3. Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli realize in Fangorn Forest that the enigmatic White Wizard is ultimately Gandalf reborn, now known as Gandalf the White. He describes his adventure with the Balrog, and we see him defeat the beast. Gandalf summons Shadowfax, Lord of the Miras, an old and noble race of horses, and the quartet travels to Edoras. Meanwhile, Frodo, Sam, and Gollum arrive at the Black Gate, only to find it heavily guarded. They observe a contingent of Easterlings from Run arriving to reinforce the garrison, only to have Gollum reveal a less dangerous path. Sam remains skeptical, but Frodo gives him the benefit of the doubt and begins calling him Smeagol. While monitoring the gate, Sam's rocky ledge gives way as he falls down the cliff. Frodo rushes to aid him and, desperate, throws Galadriel's cloak over them both. Easterlings who had wandered over to examine the ruckus are obscured by the cloak that resembles a boulder. Gandalf and company arrive at Medusild's house in Edoras, where Theodred has just died with Eowyn by his side. They exorcise Saruman's spirit from King Theoden and exile Wormtongue after much deliberation. Theoden is confronted with his dead son and, rather than risk open battle, decides to retreat to Helm's Deep, a massive castle that has rescued the people of Rohan in times of crisis. Gandalf sets out to fetch Eomer and his Rohirrim, vowing to return in 5 days, because a powerful attraction draws Eowyn to Aragorn during the way to Helm's Deep. Wormtongue flees to Orthanc and informs Saruman of Rohan's escape. Saruman then intends to destroy Rohan. Smeagol battles his divided personality in Ithilien, attempting to befriend Frodo and Sam and eventually banishing Gollum, his evil half. The two hobbits see a Southron ambush but are captured by soldiers of Gondor. Meanwhile, on the way to Helm's Deep, Eowyn grows more interested in Aragorn. When the travelers are ambushed by Saruman's wargs and their orc riders, an irritated Eowyn is tasked with safely transporting the people of Edoras to Helm's Deep. The wargs and orc riders are quickly defeated, but Aragorn is pulled by a warg and falls down a cliff into a roaring river while the bereaved survivors go on to the citadel. Saruman exposes his massive Uruk-hai army to Wormtongue in Isengard and dispatches them to wage war on Helm's Deep. Merry and Pippin, accompanied by Treebeard, realize the war has begun. In Rohan, Aragorn washes up on the bank of the river and is prodded back to consciousness by his horse, Brego. He rides to Helm's Deep, battered but unafraid. Elrond realizes that the age of the elves is coming to an end in Rivendell and convinces Arwen that staying is futile and that she should go to the Grey Havens. Elrond shows her a prophecy that if she waits for Aragorn, even if he defeats Sauron and becomes king of Gondor, he would succumb to mortality. Arwen will suffer greatly once he is dead and will be left to wither away. She grudgingly decides to depart. Meanwhile, Frodo and Sam are taken to Heneth Annan and brought before Faramir, the second son of Denethor, steward of Gondor, where they discover their kidnapper is Boromir's younger brother. Smeagol evades capture and, in order to save his life, is mistakenly enticed into a trap by Frodo, resurrecting his Gollum alter ego. Faramir learns of the One Ring and resolves to give it to Gondor in order to prove his worth to his father. Aragorn notices Saruman's army of Uruk-hai, which numbers at least 10,000 strong, on his journey to Helm's Deep. His arrival is hailed with relief, but it is short-lived due to the news that the fortress only has 300 soldiers. He advises Theoden to send for assistance, but his pleadings fall on deaf and despairing ears. Treebeard and the other Ents hold a council in Fangorn Forest, accompanied by Merry and Pippin, to deliberate the Ents' involvement in the fight with Saruman. Back at Helm's Deep, every male old enough to wield a sword is drafted, and the women retreat into the stronghold. As night approaches, as the defenders prepare to attack, a battalion of elven archers from Lorien, led by Haldir, arrives to assist in the coming fight. As it begins to rain and lightning reveals Saruman's huge army, the defenders wait on the walls. In the pouring rain, an elderly man on the wall unintentionally fires an arrow, killing an Uruk. The Battle of Helm's Deep opens with a hail of arrows from both human and elven archers, dispatching scores of Uruk-hai. The Uruk-hai swarm up to confront the defenders after scaling ladders are constructed on the Deeping Wall. Meanwhile, back at the Entish Council, Merry and Pippin grow impatient with the slow progress. At Helm's Deep, the defenses are gradually being penetrated, and the enemy uses a primitive explosive device built by the wizard to break the wall through its sewage drain, which the treacherous Wormtongue told Saruman about. Despite Aragorn and Gimli's greatest efforts, the Uruk-hai managed to breach the main gate and quickly conquer the citadel. Treebeard and the other Ents in Fangorn have opted to stay out of the fight. Halder is killed in battle, and the few remaining elves are driven back into the keep. The Uruks had scaled the walls and breached the gate in the Hornburg, forcing the defenders to withdraw into the keep as well. Pippin, frustrated by the Ents' refusal to fight, guides Treebeard to an area of Fangorn forest near Isengard that Saruman has ravaged in order to build the forges needed to make weapons for his army. Treebeard is furious at Saruman's treason and orders all the Ents to pursue retribution. They band together and set out on the last march of the Ents towards Isengard. Faramir discusses sending his father a magnificent gift, the ring, to be used as a weapon to help win the fight in the ruins of Osgiliath. Sam informs him that the ring turned Boromir insane and dishonorable. Meanwhile, the keep is under attack, and Aragorn and the others, remembering Gandalf's words before he left, of looking for him at dawn on the 5th day, make one last gallant horseback ride to attack the Uruk-hai army, in a desperate bid to allow the Rohirrim's women and children to flee into the glittering caves behind the keep. Aragorn looks up to see Gandalf at the top of the huge hill before the stronghold, as the horsemen are besieged and all appears lost. Eomer and 2,000 Rohirrim riders accompany him. As they descend, the sun rises over the hill, blinding the Uruk army. The Uruk army is defeated, and its survivors attempt to leave, only to be met by a swarm of Huorns, primitive walking trees sent to the location by Treebeard. The Ents attack Isengard, flinging stones and rocks while breaking a dam, flooding its environs and destroying the labyrinth of tunnels and foundries beneath it, while Saruman watches helplessly from his tower. A ringwraith and its fallen beast meet the hobbits in Osgiliath. Frodo, who is feeling the pull of the ring more and more, nearly avoids the ringwraith's grasp with the help of Sam and Faramir's well-aimed arrow. As we see the army at Helm's Deep defeat the evil army and the Ents demolish Isengard, Sam recounts how the story must continue and they must complete their journey, despite the danger, for there is still good in the world and it is worth fighting for. Faramir hears and chooses to set them free. Gandalf and the others now believe that a full-fledged battle is unavoidable, since Sauron would undoubtedly seek vengeance for Saruman's loss, and their only hope is Frodo and Sam, who have resumed their trip to Mordor. Gollum's darker personality reappears, feeling betrayed after his abuse by Faramir's troops, and decides to retrieve the ring by leading Frodo and Sam to her. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe.